Hello and welcome to a new Cardfight Vanguard overdress video. It's been a little while, mainly because that big video essay I made a few days ago that very few of you watched. I'll link that in the end card. Go and watch it, please. I spent like a month and a half on it. Please watch it. And it's like a half an hour, like it's a full half an hour review of the Vanguard overdress anime. I think it's pretty good myself. A lot of the other people who have seen it seem to think it's pretty good. Go and watch it. Anyway, enough of plugging my own stuff out of the way. I'm very different to other YouTubers. I get uncomfortable about plugging myself, which is probably why I don't have more subs. Whereas every other YouTuber will shamelessly plug themselves. I appreciate the hustle, but I just don't know if I can do that. Anyway, to kind of slowly ease myself back into things again, let's do a nice little light-hearted sort of, now that I've reviewed the series as a whole, let's kind of talk about the individual episodes again. Now, of course, I've already done episode reviews for each of these episodes as they were airing. There will be an end card to the playlist for that in the description, in the end card as well. So you can watch that if you want, but also, now that season 1 is finished, I feel like I have the benefit of hindsight, right? Like, now I know how season 1 kind of ended. So I can kind of look back on the previous episodes. I've been rewatching some of the older ones in like the English dub, and I rewatched the entire series multiple times over when making that review essay video. So I feel like I've definitely maybe had some more like new opinions, just kind of, and also like it saves you time if you want to just know what my thought of each individual episode is, instead of having to watch through every single episode review. We can kind of do a more quick fire thing here. Now, I made this tier list very quickly right now, so I'll put a link to that in the description. I didn't bother checking to see if anyone else had made it. It felt a bit too niche. I didn't really feel like anyone else had. If anyone else had, I apologize. I didn't check first, but I made one, so that'll be in the description. Go ahead and join the Discord server and post the images of your finished tier list there. Why not? You know, or even just your own Twitter. I'd be interested to see where everyone puts the episodes. Of course, this is just going to be my opinion. When you make your one, make your own opinions. That's okay. We're going to disagree, inevitably. And if you want any like further thoughts, of course, once again, I did do that full series review where I give a bit more context as to why I think the way I do about the series as a whole. But if you've seen that video, or any of my recent videos really, you'll know I'm actually generally pretty damn positive for this series. And so a lot of these rankings are going to be positive. So I didn't even bother around like an F tier or whatever. If you feel the need to, go ahead. It's easy. You just gotta press the cog on one of the tiers to do so. Anyway, without further ado, let's actually finally get into this. This is gonna be one of the long-winded ones, isn't it, huh? We're only ranking like 12 different things, but you know I'm gonna like get too thick in the weeds very quickly. So as you can probably tell, these are all in chronological order. So episode 1, 2, 3, etc. They're all in order. And luckily Vanguard overdress is distinct enough that you can kind of tell. Like if you've seen the series, you can probably tell which episode is which anyway, without having to have your memory jogged or anything. But of course, as I said, I'm going to go through and talk about each episode as I go, so if you're trying to complete this and you can't remember which episode's which, then, you know, you can watch along as you do yours. So, episode 1, the unforgettable Sakuga shot. I had to use that one as the image. Whew, boy, this one is a good episode. I'm going to say that a lot because, like I said, I like the show. Of course I like the episodes. But this one is, like, really solid. So, as I mentioned in my video essay, the thing that makes it really stand out is the fact that it starts off so mundane and kind of meanders around, but actually, during that meandering, it's doing really important character setup stuff that you don't even really realize is all that important until after the fact. But it's also establishing a really nice, like, cozy slice of life tone, which I think is very important for any good Vanguard anime. Kind of the things series is like a Legion mate was sorely missing. But also, it's building up to that moment, you know. It knew that everyone was going to be interested to see how they were going to do the card fights. They knew they were going to be doing the card fights very differently, and so they made you wait. And when you finally get there, it's the most satisfying thing ever to actually see them pull off. It's perfect at what it wants to do, and what it wants to do is a pretty solid beginning to a series. I feel like even a lot of the people who don't really like overdress as a series all that much still like what the first episode was going for. I don't know if I'm going to put this as an A or an S though. I think an A fits. Really great episode, love the animation, love the character introductions. It does everything it needs to do really well. Does it focus a bit too much on the yuyu cross-dressing, considering it doesn't really get mentioned all that much later on in the series? Yeah, for sure. And it's not like there's anything particularly, like, you know, profound here or anything. But it's a nice, fun introductory episode. Episode 2, I think I'm going to just immediately put that one in B. Because it's above average. You know, average is C, right? But of course, average isn't actually in the middle because I like this series. So more episodes are going to go above average than below, in my opinion. But I actually think this is kind of an underrated one. And that's another thing I'm going to say a lot, huh? I really like the card fight in this one. You know, like, this one is... It starts with kind of a long-running joke with, like, Megumi being flustered about danji and yuyu being so close already. And I definitely think that a lot of people who don't like the episode focus on that element a lot. But I think it's a funny enough joke, and they don't really focus on it that much. It's very clearly just a joke. It's not like the yuyu cross-dressing thing where they lead you to believe it's going somewhere later in season 1, and then they never really bring it up again. No, with this, it's presented as a joke, and you kind of get the idea it's not really going anywhere. Plus, it gives us some more insight to the characters, which is always wanted. I always like seeing that. But also, all the other stuff in the episode is great. I love how Danji introduces yuyu to the card game by kind of just laying out a bunch of set 1 cards and being like, pick one, which one are you drawn to? And then he picks up Trickstar. That is very nice. A lot of people have said it, but I'll say it too. Reminds me of picking a starter Pokemon. But then also, like, the other members of Wonder Hill, like, helping him build a deck by letting him have some of their, like, commons and stuff. That's very fun. And then the card fight I really like. I know it doesn't have any of the units and it doesn't have any of the Sakuga, but the actual card fight itself is really well structured, and it shows Yuyu like using strategy in that, like, he's holding on to the card so that he can like overdress at the exact right moment to take advantage of it and win. It's a really great episode. Big fan of it. Episode 3. Episode 3 I'm a little middling on. Well, I still like it overall, but I think this is an episode with a first half that kind of meanders a little bit, and a second half that's a bit too fast-paced. Now, I love every individual component that makes this episode up. I just think it's paced a little weirdly. And if I was to have one big kind of major criticism about overdress, it would be that it's paced a little weirdly. Some things are a little too fast, some things are a little too slow. Overall, I think a slower pace would have benefited it, but like I said, I go into that more in the video essay. But, like, so the first half of the episode is Danji kind of like training Yuyu, which is of course, you know, leading up towards the reveal at the end that Danji's going to try to become like Yuyu's mentor full time. And that stuff's pretty good. It just doesn't really feel like there's that much going on because they're not actually training him. They're like, you know, they're like pulling weeds in a garden and stuff. And it's like, it's fine. You know, it's just weird that that's the specific part of the training they decided to focus on. I would have preferred it if, you know, we went into more actual card fighting fundamentals. They do that right at the beginning there still, but like they kind of cut past it with a montage of like you writing a list of how to play. That's what I would have done. I know that they're doing this more to kind of show us more of Danji and Yuyu, like in a more traditionally like slice of lifey setting. They have a little joke about like practicing to card draw by pulling weeds. That stuff's fun. It just feels oddly placed, especially considering that we get 2 card fights afterwards, and one of them is kind of cut past immediately for the sake of a joke, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But then the one after that is like genuinely really good, and it feels like that ending few minutes of the episode kind of overshadows everything that comes before that. So I think I'm going to put this one in a C. It feels a bit harsh, if I'm completely honest. But it does feel like it had a higher potential than it actually achieved, you know? Okay, so this one, episode 4, this is the one where Megumi is like trying to save the amusement park. This is one that does get a lot of hate, and I can kind of understand it, but I still quite like it. I think there's a lot of character building here. This is one of the ones that gets called filler a lot. But like I said, it shows us a lot more about Megumi. We kind of learn that she's rich and that she has like this brother. We get to see like the foreshadowing, and that's the really good stuff, is like the moment Danji disappears for any amount of time, all of Wonder Hill just kind of start to fracture off, and like Megumi has this outburst where she goes up to Yuyu and is like, oh, you stopped coming to Wonder Hill and Danji's no longer around and the rest aren't really kind of as friendly anymore and all that other stuff. I like that character drama stuff. And the comedy stuff at the end, Danji and Tank and all that other stuff. That stuff's really nice. I think I'm actually going to put this one at B. I liked it. No card fight, yeah, sure. But I don't necessarily think every episode needs to have a card fight, Don't need to force it in there. And I think this is a pretty good episode in getting away with not having the card fight. Now, this is probably the most controversial episode, I'm guessing. And that's the wrestling episode. I feel like when people are arguing that the series isn't very good, the first that go-to is the wrestling episode. And that's understandable because the wrestling episode is definitely the furthest episode away from what you would expect in a series like this. It's quite a tone shift. But I think it's fun. I think it's fun. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a masterpiece of an episode, but I think the twist at the end where we find out Zakusa and Tomari are dating is really funny. I think the jokes are really funny. The animation is nice as usual. We don't really get a card fight here. They say we get a card fight, but we don't really see any of it. And once again, we don't need a card fight in every episode. I think what it is if overdress didn't have the initial hiatus, then this episode would have felt a little less out of place. Because of the fact that it had a hiatus after 12 episodes, that meant that people were kind of scrutinizing each episode to make sure that it was taking advantage of the 12 as optimally as possible. But that's kind of the thing, is overdress is still trying to be a slice of life anyway, so kind of scrutinizing it from that point of view doesn't really fit with what the series is going for in the first place. I'm going to put this one in a B or a C. I think a C, actually. Alright, episode 6. Do I have any arguers or complainers? I don't really think so. This is probably the best episode, just straight up. There are other episodes I like almost as much as this, but this one might just be the best one, straight up. We get Toya's introduction. His backstory is the best of any of the characters here. They do some really interesting stuff with being a card fighter. One of the things I love about Vanguard series is when they make the series about how Vanguard affects these characters' lives, whether that be in a positive way or a negative way. And I like that it isn't afraid of shying away from that. There's the obvious. It helps you come out of his shell and become less shy and actually start socializing with people. There's Toka using it to kind of help her grieve in G Next. And this is a really nice evolution of that, where Toya's addictions and expectations kind of get the better of him. It's a really nicely handled plot. It's really shockingly emotional. For 6 episodes in, to be this invested in a character plot is just really great stuff. I'm a big fan. The card fight is really great too. It's an S. There's nothing wrong with this one. It's a perfect episode. Now, episode 7. This is my only D. Now, don't get me wrong, I actually like this one. But this was the only one where when it ended, I was like, oh, that's it, okay. The rest of the episodes, when they ended, I'd be like, hell yeah. Really loved this episode. This is the only one where when it ended, I was like, oh, okay, that was it. Now, there's still a lot of great stuff in here. I love the character development. I love seeing the interactions between Danji and Yuyu. We all know, as foreshadowed in episode 4, Danji's probably going to disappear again sometime soon. So seeing more moments of, the characters interacting with him and getting to know him and all that other stuff is really great stuff so that we care when he leaves. So I'm a big fan of all that stuff. I just think that, as I mentioned earlier, you don't have to have a card fight in every episode. And some episodes do a very good job of not having a card fight in every episode. This one, I'm not really sure how you'd fit a card fight in plot-wise without it seeming very random and out of left field. But it felt like maybe, putting in a card fight and then tightening up the rest of the stuff we got would have kind of helped with the pacing of this one. I don't know how I would have fixed it necessarily. I still think it's a fine episode, but it's a tiny little smidge below average in my opinion. Yeah, this is the only one that like I'm not fully 100% in love with. I still like it a lot, but it does feel a little meandery at points. Even from the point of view of a slice of life series, because that's the thing, it is a slice of life series, so there are going to be slower episodes, but this one just kind of felt like it wasn't really going anywhere, which is a shame because some of the ideas it had were really good. Episode 8, I feel like this is kind of where we get into like the stretch of like just GOAT episodes. We just get like 5 or so episodes in a row that are like all really good. See, episode 8 and 9, and I'm gonna kind of be judging these sort of equally because they're very similar episodes, and this is where it really starts to kind of get into its groove. This is where overdress gets the kind of, it really kind of gets into its pattern, and this is why, you know how I said like I wish in the video essay I kind of wish the Toya episode 6 was actually episode 12, and then we got the hiatus, and then we got like these last 3 episodes some point in season 2. That's because I wish we got more episodes like 8 and 9 in season 1, right? Because this is a really nice pattern of like kind of showing us these characters, having nice fun slice of life interactions with them, having a little bit of development and establishment like with Megumi's backstory, and then just having a fun car fight between characters. Both of these episodes have a very similar formula. Both of them are very similar in general. I would say the episode 8 is better at like handling Megumi's backstory and the sort of comedic elements. This is a very funny episode, so I'll place that one in A, actually. And then this one, I think the episode 9, I think... Wait, this isn't episode 9, this is... I'm being an idiot, I can't count. But this episode with Zakusa, I don't really care as much about Zakusa because whilst he does kind of have something of a backstory, I don't really think his is quite as interesting. I don't really think there's as much to cling on with him. Obviously, for now, he's supposed to be more of a comedic character and everything, but like, you know. Yeah, so for this one, I'm gonna place in B, but I will say that the card fight in this episode is actually one of the best ones, just straight up. I really love the card fight in this one. No real like Sakuga or anything, but I just think the way it's like choreographed and planned out and everything is really, really nice. So then we get episode 10. I can count again. Yeah, because 10, 11, 12, finale, yep. Okay, episode 10 is, again, I kind of wish they'd have saved these 3 episodes for like season 2. But like, whatever, we're judging them as if they were season 1 episodes. This one's going in either an A or an S, honestly. I think I'm gonna put it in S again, because this one is great. This one, when I watched it, was the only other episode, like other than episode 6, that I walked out of it and went, this might be my favorite one. I think ultimately it is episode 6 that's my favorite. It's the one that's held like the bigger impact. But just in terms of straight up like enjoyment and investment, this one I was just enjoying every single minute of it. Even though some of the plot points were predictable, like with Shinobu backstabbing Wanda Hill, I was still thoroughly entertained. I loved the kind of mysteries they were sort of setting up. Of course, I can't really judge a lot of those mysteries because we still haven't had payoff for them, like the stuff that Danji was doing in the episode. I love the world building, like showing all these other teams that have matching sleeves. That stuff is the best. I like the card fight at the end. Yes, it's 2 card fights they keep cutting between, so, and it doesn't get much screen time, but I still like it a lot. It feels very tense. These 3 episodes especially, this anime does a very good job at tension. You really feel the stakes. Yeah, at least if you're invested, and that's the reason they had the slice of lifey episodes earlier on, so that you feel like the tension, you actually care about what's happening. So yeah, I feel like if you placed these 3 episodes any earlier than you did, I wouldn't really care because I wouldn't have enough of a handle on these characters and I wouldn't like them as much. So, episode 11, the Yuyu versus Toya rematch. That's an A. Oh boy, that's an A. That's a really good one. Mainly because it's just that intense feeling it has, you know? Like, This is the moment where, like, all hope is lost. Like, you have that little spark of hope that Yuyu might win, but let's face it, we all knew deep down he wasn't going to win. He's still a rookie. It would feel like a very big ass pull if he actually won this card fight. And so I'm actually glad he lost, but that's the thing, is that feeling of hopelessness. Because they really sell this idea, like they want you to believe that he's gonna win, and they try their hardest to sell it so that when he does lose, it's really great stuff. And the way this episode handled the overtrigger, with you getting the overtrigger so that once again you feel like he's gonna win, but then Toya's like, hey, just because you get an overtrigger doesn't mean you're automatically guaranteed a victory. Just straight up breaking the fourth wall. I really like that. It's just a great episode. Really loved it. Really enjoyable. Really entertaining. And then the series finale. I'm gonna give this one a B or an A. Ooh, an A, actually. The card fight in this one might also be the best. I know I just said that about the Zakusa versus Masanori one, but now I'm thinking about it, I think the card fight in this one's actually the best. I don't know. Well, in terms of a story setup, like in terms of investment, in terms of how much I care about a card fight, the one in the finale was the best one. I was on the edge of my seat for all of it. I was so excited and entertained to see what would happen in the card fight. I loved every moment of it. Really great card fight. This one, in terms of just like execution and like how it was paced and choreographed, I felt was really good. But thinking back on it, I do think the episode 12 one was a little bit better. And then just the stuff that, like, I think the reason I was initially going to lower it to B is because a lot of it does hinge on how good Season 2 is. And a lot of these episodes hinge on how good Season 2 and beyond are, of course. But a lot of them are, like, kind of standalone stories. Like, you can kind of take, the introduction of Toya as its own sort of standalone story. You don't really need... It's not an episode that can really be ruined by future episodes, Like, it's still really enjoyable in a vacuum. This one here does feel like, well, because it's the finale, it does hinge on how good the stuff it's setting up is. And the stuff it's setting up is stuff that will appear in Season 2. Stuff like Toya being a member of Team Blackout, stuff like Team Daybreak, and all that other kind of stuff. So I really love the stuff we got here. I don't think it's an S tier, just because it does rely on like continuity stuff, which I mean isn't a downside on its own. I do like the continuity stuff itself, but it does sometimes drag down an individual episode because we just don't know where things are going to go from there. And that's it. That's my thoughts on the episodes. It might be a bit all over the place, but as you can see from the kind of shape I've been able to make here, a lot more positive than negative. Like we've got like 2 episodes in S tier and then 4 in A tier, so that's like half the season in like the 2 best tiers. So hey, that goes to show just how much I like the series. And of course, just because there are episodes in the lower tiers doesn't mean I dislike them inherently. Even the very lowest one, whilst I was like a little disappointed in, that was only really because my expectations were already so high, especially considering this one came immediately after the Toyu episode. So, that is funny that like the worst episode came immediately after the best one. But yeah, though, that's my order. Hopefully I've done a pretty decent job of explaining that order. Of course, if you want my further opinions, as I mentioned in the end card, I will show like the playlist to the individual episode reviews, and also the series review too. Both do a very good job of kind of explaining more of my thoughts and everything. I just wanted to do a very quick, like, putting everything in a tier list and going, this is why they're in each tier. I thought it would be a fun idea for a video. There'll be a link in the description so that you can make your own tier list too. So let me know what you thought of the video and my opinions and where you'd put each episode. I know you can't do like images in YouTube comments, but you can still probably like format a thing where like you tell me which tier you'd put each episode in if you really want to, or if you do want to just post the image, you can do that in my Discord server. That will be in the description too. And that's basically everything. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all the other good stuff. I'll see you soon for more videos, kind of easing back into it after that big long video essay. And remember, for every statement, there's always an asterisk. See ya.